an Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Spoil Me, covering Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, Season 4, Episode 13. I have to get out. In this episode, Paula is stuck at the hospital, desperately trying to get let out so she can take the fucking bar exam, which I swear to God feels like an anxiety dream. I hate it. And in other anxiety dreams, all of Rebecca's ex-boyfriends are forced to quarantine together. Welcome to Spoil Me. Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Natasha. Thank you very much to Jacqui for commissioning this episode. This was a really fun one. I feel like this might be my favorite episode of the season so far. It has the, sort of wacky, what's the word? Slapstick isn't quite it. I guess, screwball comedy aspect of them trying to bust Paula out of the hospital. We have the it's almost a wish fulfillment thing, having all of her ex-boyfriends trapped and forced to talk to each other, because I think a lot of us have just sort of wondered what's going on in their heads about everything. And also, I really appreciated getting to see Rebecca make a really, smart decision here and pull back on her relationship with Greg, which I completely understand her wanting to be in a relationship and try again. But y'all know I've been feeling like she isn't ready for this, and I feel like that is exact evidence, and I'm so glad that she could see it. And I'm so glad that she's completely honest with him about what happened, so that her telling him, I really think I need to pull out of this, doesn't feel like a cop-out on her part, or doesn't gaslight him. Because she tells him precisely what happened and how she's been feeling, he is able to hear her in a real way, and it's a very mature conversation. And I've said before that the show has suffered in some ways by having Rebecca be more rational now. And what was sort of fun to watch before was the train wreck. And while that's not really... you don't want Rebecca to not get better. There is that entertainment factor. But I feel like seeing her take a really big step forward here still manages to be entertaining because of what happened behind the scenes regarding her exes and everything with Greg. So it doesn't feel like, oh, wow, we just had a really, mature conversation between the two of them. That was super fun. There's a whole other subplot happening there that she doesn't know about. And during that scene, we have Josh, watching through the window. And then later on, Greg talking to Nathaniel, and Nathaniel getting, the little expression on his face. I just thought this was nice because what the show has sort of done, I don't know that I want to say this as an absolute, because God knows, the show has not treated all of its male characters as if they are super rational. A lot of them have done fucked up things, selfish things. Nathaniel's just been an outright asshole. But I really like that we're turning things on their head a little bit regarding the men being a little bit, unbalanced about wanting to be with somebody who might not be good for them. And it's not just Trent who's obsessive and honestly dangerous, probably. This is just showing us that men can be similar regarding having their hang-ups on a girl and thinking that being with her will solve their problems, or if they just got one more shot it would be fine. And I think it's kind of fun to have it slowly turn this corner. We've all gotten invested enough in every one of these men that we care more about how they feel than we do just about how this affects Rebecca. And seeing them sort of bounce off one another, trying to be honest with each other as much as they can, but also they can't help that they still have feelings for her. I think this is a clever way to go. And it also is fascinating that this is happening when she's starting to like sort of get it together personally a little bit more. And I don't know if that's intentional by like from the show, but what it feels like they're saying is the better care you take care of yourself, or the better care you give yourself, and the firmer your boundaries are, the more desirable you're going to seem, because you are giving off this vibe of being a person who has their shit together, you know? And what's so ironic is that Rebecca, when she was previously in a place where she wanted everybody to have interest in her, she was looking for this validation, but getting it wouldn't really have been enough. And seeking it the way she wasn't healthy. Now she's turning a corner where that validation doesn't matter to her as much. She's realizing it isn't really worth anything, but now she's getting it. And that is so true, isn't it? Like, you hang everything about your worth on something, and the more you desperately try and claw it back to you, the more it slips away. And then, one day, it maybe just lands in your lap, and you realize that somewhere along the way, you just stopped caring about that. It's not really what you thought you wanted, or your understanding of your priorities changed, and now it's just, you're past that now, you know? And I'm very curious to see what action they're going to take regarding trying to make a move on her, if any. They both, and by both I mean Josh and Nathaniel, they both get an expression when they hear that she and Greg have broken up, like they are going to make a plan right now on how to approach her. And I'm not sure if they will. You know, they may consider it and then maybe feel things out with her a little bit and realize that's not what they want to do. Maybe that it wouldn't be good for her. That's what I hope, is that as much as they may be interested, that they will approach things with her softly and then come to realize it's not in her best interest, and that they will be good enough and considerate enough to back off, even if it is what they want. But, you know, we'll see. And I don't know how much awareness she's going to have that it's happening, because I can't decide whether I want them to come at it sideways so gently that she isn't really even aware of what they're trying to suss out, or if I want her to know that they are approaching her, and for her to be like, all right, I have to decide if this is anything that I really want. She said that she doesn't think it is something that she wants while she's with Greg. But it's one thing to say that to somebody when you have been kind of in a fixed relationship with them and it feels like there's a definitive beginning and end. And it's another thing to turn down somebody who is trying to start something new that's fairly nebulous. And maybe you just want to see where it goes, you know? Can she be casual? I don't feel like that's really in Rebecca's vocabulary, you know? So I guess we'll see. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I enjoyed this part, the whole aspect of this. So we start off the episode, guys, with Josh Chan's arms. One of the 7 wonders of the world. I swear to God, his forearms, he's unclogging a sink, a drain, at Rebetzel's. And what we find out here, first of all, is that Josh is paying $80 a month in rent, which is adorable. It's like, you know, and he's standing there, and is it Jim or is it Tim? This is Jim, right? Who is trying to tell him, obviously you're helping her out because you have feelings for her. And Josh is resistant to this and is like, dude, no, we're very close friends. She's done a lot for me. She's going through a hard time with a best friend who is just had a heart attack. She has just started her antidepressants. She's going through some shit. I'm just trying to be nice. And thank you, Erica, says Jim. Jim says, just be honest that you love her. And this is one of those things where I felt like we were probably going to go towards Josh does have feelings for Rebecca, but there is a little part of me that hates the fact that a guy can't help out a woman friend of his and do something generous, and people people will always question whether or not he must want to fuck her. You know, there was a bit of me that was like, Jim, you disappoint me. This dude literally lives with her. Coming and helping her snake this drain out isn't really like it's not like he's co-signing a loan for her or something, you know, like, but whatever. And it's what, like, Jim is here, and I had forgotten that he used to own this pretzel stand and then quit and went back to being a lawyer. So this conversation just sort of starts to get the ball rolling on whether or not Josh is still having feelings for her, and we see a brief flashback of the two of them making out, and it's clearly on his mind what happened the other night. And he even mentions that. He just tries to be like, yeah, I mean, we did have a bit of a massage episode the other night that almost got out of hand, but nothing. It's nothing. It's no problem. And then we go to Rebecca meeting Dr. Akopian and talking about what's going on with her antidepressants. And this was interesting to me. So we have is the song that quickly follows this little scene about how being put on antidepressants isn't even a big deal. I was a little surprised that was the tack, right? The show took. Because to me, just being like, oh, hey, it's fine that you're taking antidepressants because lots of people do, isn't actually a compelling argument to me. That feels like there's a lot of things lots of people do that aren't super healthy. So just saying lots of people do a thing is not in any way, to me, an argument. That's just a fact, and it's up to your interpretation whether or not that is a positive or negative. That's sort of a neutral fact, in my opinion. And I really expected that the argument that I always see when people are sort of airing their hesitation, I guess is the best word, hang-ups about taking antidepressants, is people take heart medication. You don't judge them for that. People use insulin because their body doesn't produce it naturally. You don't judge them for that. Taking a medication to help with brain chemistry, which is a physical issue, isn't any different. It's just that we've decided to put a stigma on it because of what it is. And I really thought that was going to come up. It never comes up. I was really surprised by that. I don't really know why it wouldn't, because for me, that's the thing. Like, everybody's on antidepressants. Like I said, that's just not, I don't care about what everybody does. I want to know the reason behind why I should do this thing. Why you think for me it specifically is helpful and shouldn't be looked down on. Or, you know, like Rebecca even has this moment of, I feel like I should have been able to tough it out. Like I feel like this is me just sort of copping out. And she doesn't say anything about, it's not a cop-out, it's literal treatment from a doctor. Like, why isn't that said at any point? I found that really kind of frustrating. I'll be honest, I was so distracted by the fact that that is never said, that the everybody is on antidepressants song didn't land for me the way I really wanted it to. Because it felt like they were completely overlooking the actual argument here. And I don't know. It's just like, I was, honestly, I was just really disappointed by it. There is so much stigma, and half of the stigma is the fact that everybody's on antidepressants. That's the shit that people talk about, like, oh, everybody just wants to take a pill today. So saying, well, everybody's on them, for me, just plays right into the boomer-esque sort of complaint. Instead of approaching it from the, maybe everybody's on them because we understand more about brain chemistry and that we are, a lot of us, fucked up and have trauma, and we are figuring out better ways to cope with that. And so, yeah, more people are seeking out treatment and more people are being treated and being acknowledged as having some sort of brain chemistry issue, rather than being told that they just need to lose weight or go for a walk, you know? I wanted there to be more substance here. And I found it shocking that there's a literal, like, doctor in the scene who doesn't say this shit. Why not? What? I don't know if that's just me. Let's see. Erica is in the chat. She says, citalopram, hopefully I'm saying that right, made me feel like a sleep zombie like Rebecca is. I thought it was more like medication shouldn't be a bad, scary thing, but I def see where you're coming from. Yeah, and like, if it were presented as it shouldn't be a scary thing, because it's like, it's medical, then, but it's not presented like that. It's just like, oh, here's all these people every day that you meet that are on it. And again, that's so much of what is said by people who have an issue and are continuing to stigmatize getting antidepressants or any sort of like medication, really. If we have ADHD meds thrown in there, mood stabilizers, antipsychotics, like all of those things, people have this real like ancient attitude about. I was going to say old fashioned. It's not adequate. And I just really felt like this was a prime opportunity to be like, we like to call mental health, we like to like separate it from our body's physical health in this other category, but it's not at all. Mental health affects your body. It has literal physical effects. So for us to just not acknowledge that and categorize it as a sort of separate thing, that's like step number one that I find really irritating. And that's not to say that, you know, medication is like a magical answer. Obviously, you can be on meds, but if you're not doing the work, it's not necessarily going to help in the ways that it could if you were continuing to explore. Like, part of the work is straight up just learning to be a better person. Learning how to interrogate yourself about your motivations for things and why you have the views you do. That's something that's just an ongoing thing as an adult human being in the world that you should do. So just taking medication isn't going to solve a feeling of, what should I do with my life? Where am I going? What are my goals? It helps with brain chemistry. That's it. But that's a lot, you know, super, super important. So yeah, I just like I said, I like the way the song was set up. I really appreciated what they were doing here. And I will say that I was like, when she opens that pill bottle and there's a pair of tap shoes in there, I found that hilarious. It's kind of remarkable. This is the first tap song in the show. Am I wrong? There might have been another one, but I don't think so. And it is kind of surprising it took this long to get to a tap number. So I really, like, I got what they were trying to do. But I just feel like it wasn't adequate. And they had a chance to do something that said a lot more and didn't really take it. And I don't know if it's because they didn't think of it, if that just wasn't the direction they wanted to go in. But if it wasn't the direction they wanted, I don't really know why not. What would be the problem with that? I don't know. Megan says, I think you're not alone is helpful for me. No one in my life until the last year or two talked about being on antidepressants, and I'm finally a combination of 3 that works well. But I was the only person I knew who took them through my 20s. Miss T says, yeah, I didn't find out my dad was on Wellbutrin until I'd been on it for a year. Erica, did you notice Josh's sister who got married in season 1 was in the video? Oh, no, I didn't. Oh, that's fun, Erica. I didn't see that. No. The Happy Homemakers. Oh, okay. Okay, like, and everybody's saying that the song was helpful for them to know that other people were on it. I get that. And I'm not, like, saying that shouldn't matter. I'm just saying, like, as an argument for why she shouldn't be as hung up on it. I thought we would have something a little bit more, like, fact-based for the audience as well. Because I understand what you guys mean. I have relatives, like, personally, I've never been somebody that really cared if other people were on that's never been something that I worried about. I was always like, well, I'm me and I might take something that you don't take and that's fine. But I can understand why some people would be like, oh, I'm the only one. There's something wrong with me. I just feel like for this moment in the dialogue, it's weird that isn't said. If it was just her and Dr. Akopian talking about it, and Dr. Akopian says something like that to her, and then we go into this song, it would feel a lot more like, all these people are on it because lots of people have issues with their brain chemistry. It's not just you. But instead, it just feels like lots of people are on it, and so that should stand alone as a reason why you should be fine with it, which doesn't really work for me, and it feels like it isn't explicit enough. Oh, right. Erica says season 2 had we tapped that ass all over the house. I knew there was one other one, and I was like, but I couldn't, I kept thinking, no, I don't think so. Okay, that's what it was. Thank you, Erica. So anyway, this was one where I just I got what they were going for, and for some people it worked. It just didn't work for me. I kept waiting for more that didn't actually come. But that said, I do really appreciate the depiction of Rebecca struggling to get used to the new medication because, yeah, Owen is started on meds and it is really hard for him. He has been doing nothing but sleeping lately. It's really, really tough. He wants to enjoy his free time when he gets home from work and stuff, and he can't. He gets off work and he wants to sleep immediately when he gets home. He barely can stay awake long enough to eat dinner before he just passes out. And it sucks for me because I miss him. You know, he comes home. I haven't seen him all day. Yesterday he went to bed as soon as he got home, so I didn't see him. And now he's going to bed again immediately. And it's like, I'm basically by myself a lot of the time because he's just exhausted. But he'll try and make an effort to hang out and he'll be falling asleep. You know, we're watching a movie and I hear a snore and look over and he's just out. It can't be helped. And I feel like this is something that a lot of people don't realize can be as hard as it is. For those of us who are old hat at trying different medications, we know what it means to not only go through a couple different types of meds to figure out what works for you, but also potentially to be told by our doctor that we need to give it more of a chance, that they don't feel comfortable changing our prescription, upping the dosage, switching us to something else. Maybe we should see a different doctor. Especially women get this because we are just not believed. So Owen's been sort of struggling because he is trying to figure out what works for him and wants it to work right away, or wants to know how well it's going to work for him with like a sort of guarantee, like by this date you should be feeling a lot better. And unfortunately, there's no way to know how you're going to react to something. I take Wellbutrin, but I started off taking Lexapro, and that was a fucking nightmare for me. That's just like, that was one of those things where it was such a combination of terrible side effects for me that I had a hard time believing they were all coming from the one drug. I was like, there's got to be something else going on. No. When I stopped taking that, those side effects went away. It was like I was gritting my teeth and like grinding my teeth all the time, like I was on Molly or something. Is that one of the... I don't take drugs, guys, so I don't know. But I know that there's one speed. I was had sort of trembling. This just very like over caffeinated sort of feeling. I couldn't have an orgasm. That was a really bad scene. Just couldn't come. It made me want to cry. And I just, like, also exhausted. Also, my appetite was all over the place. It was bad. And, Wellbutrin works really well for me. And I just really wonder if there were more guidance of like, in groups about, like, here's all the things you may go through, that was given to people up front about their meds, other than just written on a piece of paper that's handed to you with the bottle, because people don't read that. I feel like it would help a lot of folks to feel it, like, less gaslit. And also to just be constantly reminded every day, you've only been on it 2 weeks. You've only been on it 3 weeks, you know? Let's see. Ms. T says, a lot of the time your partner notices before you do if the meds are working. Yeah, I could see that. Erica's on Lexapro. Yeah, the Lexapro is what Owen is on right now. And so far, like I said, he's really tired. It does seem to be helping in some ways. It's hard to know. But yeah, I am a huge proponent of getting medicated. Like, I wish that I had done it sooner. At this point, I've been on Wellbutrin going on like 15 years, probably. But, I mean, I had horrific depression and suicidal ideation from like 14. And I wish to God that I had known what was happening so that I could get treated earlier on. But I just didn't understand what was happening to me, you know? There is very, like, in the past 5-10 years, our dialogue about mental health has come such a long way. And when you're a teenage girl, there's a real tendency for people to write off you feeling like shit as you just being a dramatic teenage girl, because those things are considered synonymous with one another, because patriarchy. So I would sort of judge myself for feeling the way that I did and think that I was being overdramatic. And I was literally told I was being overdramatic. So I didn't take myself seriously for a really long time. And I think about it sometimes and just, you know, wish that there were a way to go back and tell myself, sweetie, your brain is not up to par in its sheer functionality. You need to go get a tune-up. It's fine. But there it is. So, anyway, sorry guys, I'm going to pull this blanket over my shoulders. I did a workout before I started recording, and I was still a little sweaty, and now I have the AC blowing down the back of my neck, and I feel like I'm going to literally freeze to death. So, then we have Paula, who is studying for the bar exam after getting cut open like a melon, I think, is what Heather says, because if she doesn't think about Paula's heart as if it were fruit, she will throw up. And she needs to get discharged from the hospital in time to take the exam. She could take the exam at a different point, but she doesn't want to wait because she has been putting everything she has into this. And it's interesting because Paula asks Rebecca what she thinks. And Rebecca's over there has literally fallen asleep on the bed. And she's sort of reacting when she wakes up to Paula's question of what I should do. She's reacting more to what it is that... What is the person's name that's working for Rebetzels? JD, LJ, MJ, TJ? I know it was initials. But they said to Rebecca, well, I'm very happy to, like, help you realize your dream. And Rebecca says, my dream? Why do you think that? And AJ's like, because it says you're eating my dream. Something like that. And she's like, oh, no. That's just to get people to, like, buy the thing. This is what I decided to do, but it's not my dream. And I just like, okay, well, what is your dream? And she doesn't really have an answer to that yet. And, of course, we know what it's likely to be because Rebecca Bunch is a bit of a Rachel Bloom. I don't know how much she has in common, if Rachel Bloom takes a lot of what Rebecca went through, or if it's mostly fiction and she throws a bit of herself in there. But, this is one of those things where whenever somebody asks you, like, what is it that you want out of your life? That's just such a massive question. And when we are adults who have sort of gotten into a groove with how we're living our lives to a point, depending on where we are, when somebody asks that sort of question, all we can do is think about the many reasons why that thing that we want can't possibly work out, or the number of obstacles between us and doing that thing. And I am here to tell you all that while all of those reasons and obstacles are valid, if you want it enough, you can figure it out. I'm not saying it won't be difficult, and I'm not saying that you're going to be able to have exactly what you want right away. But take steps. Because, first of all, just taking steps makes you feel better about your whole life. Just taking first steps, it's amazing what it can do to make you go, okay, I have started. Okay, good. And you just, this feeling. But also, and here's the thing that might sound like a downside, but I promise it's not. It will test whether or not you actually do want it. Because I think a lot of us might think we want certain things. And when we're put in the position of actually getting them, we'll realize this isn't what I thought. It doesn't line up with what my priorities actually are. I don't want this the way that I thought I wanted it. And that's not a bad thing. I think a lot of people have a sort of, there's a stigma about quitting. As if by quitting you are admitting you can't do it. Quitting means a lot of things. And quitting can sometimes mean, oh, I figured out this isn't it. And then you start something else. You can't start a new thing without quitting the old thing. So quitting is just, it's a neutral. Again, there's no judgment associated with it. I have quit so many things, and I believe that Unspoiled has grown the way that it has because I quit things that weren't working. You have to be able to direct your energy where you want it to go very specifically. So those of you out there who have something that's sort of on your mind that you may want to explore, go out there, give it a shot, and please don't beat yourself up if you want to quit. Because you tried something, because this is part of the experimentation of figuring out what it is that you do want. You can't find the thing without crossing other stuff off your list first. And I have tried, I can't tell you all how many different things I have tried in my life before I found podcasting. Podcasting literally didn't even exist at all. And I was just out there spinning my wheels, waiting for the day that Apple would invent podcasting, not realizing that's what I was waiting for. And how, I don't know that I would necessarily be as good at podcasting by the time it came around if I hadn't done those other million other things and failed at them first. So just everybody, y'all, we get so worried, especially those talented and gifted kids out there. We get so worried about wanting to do well. We really want to be good at stuff right away. And I understand that so much. I am a perfectionist, and God help me. If I'm not excellent at something, I just want nothing to do with it. I fucking sympathize, but get over it. That's it. That's my pep talk. Get over it and go do the thing. There it is. So anyway, when Rebecca wakes up, she hears Paula talking about whether or not she should put it off. And Paula has pointed out they only give the bar exam twice a year. This was something that I didn't know until a friend of the show, Krista, also co-host on numerous other Unspoiled properties, she was taking the bar exam 2 years ago now, I think, or maybe last year. And I was talking to her about like the ins and outs of it. And I had no idea how I had thought, I think I said last episode, the bar exam isn't like a fucking SAT test. And I say that with the full acknowledgement that I sort of thought that is how it was. I thought the bar exam was like an SAT test. That it was like a multiple choice out of these laws, which one of them applies to the previous situation, that sort of thing. And it turns out that you need like all sorts of references and referrals, and there's all sorts of weird shit depending on the state that you live in that precludes you from even getting to take the bar exam. Which, wow, okay. And then it's, like she says, only twice a year, and there are sometimes there will be issues that cause you to not be allowed to take it within the same year twice if you fail it the first time, or you're not able to collect new referrals and whatnot in time to take it the second time. It's just, I really understand Paula like just wanting to get it done and being as laser focused on it as she is here. And I'm very glad that I know what I know now about the bar exam from Krista, or else I might have just been like, yeah, it's only twice a year, but seriously, you literally just had heart surgery. What are you doing? Instead, I'm kind of Team Paula on this. And I'm like, look, I understand that it's like a little bit bonkers, but also 6 months from now, she's going to like go nuts with anxiety. Look at how hard it's already been for her. She needs to get it over with. And when Rebecca wakes up, she is just like a 100%, yeah, we definitely need you to take this fucking test. This is your dream. And Paula had said something like, if I've learned anything from having this heart attack, it is that you can go at any time. And I just really want you, I really want to live now and do this now. So the doctor comes in. So this doctor is Rachel Bloom's real life husband. Is that correct? And he's not actually a twin. They set it up that he's a twin for the episode, right? Because he's not the funny doctor. He's the opposite of the funny doctor. And we have the funny doctor, and I say funny with an asterisk. We have this sort of like odd couple situation where the funny one is trying to test out his incredibly terrible stand-up material on his completely lacking in sense of humor brother. And he says that, first of all, she can't leave today, but he will let her out tomorrow. And unfortunately, the timing isn't going to work out because he's in surgery. And it winds up being that she's going to have to hang around and wait for a cardiologist. It's supposed to be that she gets allowed to go home first thing in the morning, but she's sitting there just waiting for him, and they come in to tell her that he'll be with her by the end of the day, when she specifically asks him, here, please don't keep me waiting. I have something like major that I need to go do. And this leads to a whole like heist-esque escape that they set up for Paula. The thing that, and I as soon as I was like, we all know that Rebecca's having trouble staying awake here. She's literally falling asleep on her feet at several moments. As soon as this is happening, and they assign Rebecca to the role of playing a corpse laying on a gurney, I was just like, what are you doing, guys? You have to know that's the worst possible, like, role that she could play. Of course she's going to fall asleep. But we need it to work for the story. So she falls asleep on this gurney, and they don't lift the sheet or anything to actually check on her. This is the funny doctor, by the way, who rolls her down into the morgue. And she just sort of wakes up under the sheet listening to these two dudes talk about how this, the name, I think, that's like on the gurney, or maybe they're talking about somebody else that just got brought down, but they're talking about somebody who is fairly young and they didn't see it coming. You always think that you have more time, that sort of thing. And this is something that when you are around 28 through 31, 32, I feel like all of my friends have gone through the same thing at that age. You have that moment of, I'm about to crest the hill of what all of us officially recognize as adulthood. Age 18 is when you're technically an adult. Spoilers, nobody thinks of you as an adult. Nobody does. 25, you're starting to maybe be taken seriously, but like, it's very questionable. Once you hit 30, that's when everybody's like, okay, well, this is who you are. This is like who you are when you're 30 is where you stay. There's like this sort of weird assumption that that's all the like parts are in place. And now you just have to figure out what you're going to do with them. Up till then, you're still building new parts. You're still reassembling things, moving things into different places. But there's this sort of attitude that after 30, you're immovable and nothing can change. So if you want things to change, you better get it done before 30. First of all, that's super duper not true. Just everybody, like, know this. But also, because of that attitude, it really makes people stop and go, oh God, if that's true, if I stay wherever I'm at, then I better figure out where I want to be, because this sure isn't it. I don't want this that I'm in right now to be where I'm at. This is not it. And this leads to a sort of existential panic for a lot of us. This was when my father died, my grandmother died, I got a divorce, realized that like me and my husband were not working out anymore, that what I had been doing for work was soul sucking and making me incredibly unhappy, and that I needed to make a major change there. Everything about how I lived, where I lived, what I did, everything just fell apart because I began to realize this isn't it. And I am watching that happen with Owen also. He turned 30 last year. And it's just, it's so hard to watch it because you know it's going to come. But it's always sort of a surprise to the person that it happens to, because we never think that our situation is going to be like other people's situations. When somebody says, I really went through this moment at 30 where I began to question everything about my life, where I was and where I was heading, you're like, okay, that's you. But there are some things that feel sort of universal. And especially if you are living in a society that treats people in a certain way as a group. And I had said something to him about like watching out for right around 30, you're going to want to make some major changes, I bet. And he really didn't I don't think he either believed me or he thought that I was exaggerating. And we had a talk a couple of weeks ago where he was like, I'm so mad that you were exactly right. He was like, I kind of resent the fact that you knew this was going to happen. And I was like, I understand. There's nothing that everybody hates more than being told about themselves and it turning out that that person was correct. But Rebecca's like watching Paula trying to live out her dreams and wants to be super supportive of that. And I really appreciate, despite the fact that she's falling asleep, she's wrestling with her own desires and what she wants from her life, but she is still there for Paula throughout this episode, which is the major factor. Rebecca has been a taker, and Paula has been more than willing to give, and that worked for a little while, but it wasn't healthy for either one of them, and she is really making an effort to just be there, as difficult as it can be sometimes. And so she helps Paula get out. Paula, obviously, she won't get the results from her bar exam right away. So by the time they sneak her back into the hospital, they don't know whether or not she passed, but she was able to go take it. And that was the main thing. And I should mention too, there's this whole song that Rebecca sings when she's stuck in the morgue. She gets like a voicemail from Valencia that's like cutting out at these. It's the kind of static that doesn't happen really on cell phones, but the point is that Valencia is calling her and asking her, what are you waiting for? What is your dream? Is what it sort of like adds up to. And I love Rebecca being like, what a weird place for that voicemail to keep cutting out. And at one point she's looking at all of the toe tags in the morgue, and like 3 of the people are named Rebecca, and she starts thinking that it's everybody. And then she finds one that's named Steve, and she's like, okay, but 3 Rebeccas is still super weird. I just thought that was really funny. And so eventually she asks Josh, she's like talking to him about auditioning for some musical theater thing. And, she's like, do you think that makes me really weird? And he's like, no, it makes you happy. Go ahead. Like, he had said to her during the massage thing that he always thinks of her as the theater kid. And she had a moment when when he says that, where she takes that really like proudly and is like, oh my God, that's how you see me? Really? And I'm just, I'm wondering how the show is going to show us Rebecca going after that kind of dream, because getting into theater, if she's doing community theater, that can be a really dramatic place that's rich with opportunity for comedy. And when I say dramatic, you guys know what I mean if you've been in theater. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to that. And I'm assuming she's going to keep doing rebetzels. Like, she's not just going to close her business, because the community theater thing isn't paying. It's just for the enjoyment of it. I wonder if she's going to try and do something professionally and what that looks like, because, she lives in California and she is nearing 30, I think, in the show. I don't know if she is 30. I don't even remember. But she is not in a place where succeeding professionally is as likely as it would be if she were younger. And I wonder if they're going to even approach that at all, or what that's going to look like. Okay. I have so little time left. I just had so much to say about all this other stuff, guys. So I'm going to really quick jump over to what's going on with Daryl. Daryl is coming to visit Paula, but there's like too many people in Paula's room. So he's forced to wait in the waiting room with this nurse who's like a bouncer. And he meets a woman when he's waiting. And this woman is also a single parent with a daughter. And he and this woman really hit it off. They both brought bean dip to a hospital. And then they find out, when they bring their daughters with them, that their daughters are like mortal social enemies. And it's honestly really fun. I thought this was a sweet subplot. His daughter is like asleep, but overhears him and this woman talking between one another about how their children come first. And since they don't get along, I guess as much as we've hit it off, and I really would like to get to know you better, and it's hard to meet people, I really feel like I need to put my kid first. And if they don't get along, we can't see each other. It's just not going to work out. And what is his daughter's name? Savannah? Dakota? Can't remember his daughter's name. Erica says she's Mindy St. Clair from The Good Place. I don't remember who that is. I haven't watched The Good Place in a long time. And I didn't finish it when, like, the final episode, or the final season, wasn't anywhere that I could find it for, like, years, it felt like. Madison. Thank you, Erica. I was like, I knew it was a place. But Madison goes and she gets into cahoots with the other daughter, and also sort of argues with Daryl himself about, like, this, she could be your person. You really do need to get to know her. It'll be fine. And, Megan says she's the lady in the medium place. Thank you, Megan. Okay. God, that medium place was really That was a good idea. So the two of them are going to explore things a little bit. And I really appreciate, again, the bi representation with Daryl, that we are seeing him have this very real connection with White Josh, but also going back to dating a woman, and there's no, like, feeling of, well, isn't that sort of weird? Like, there's no comment made about it at all. Being bi, it's just about the person, and that's it. And so he is allowed within the show to have an ex-wife and then be dating Josh and then go back to being interested in this woman. And it's just like, this is something that is not done often on television. And I really appreciate it. I just feel like, and I will cop to this personally as well. I used to be somebody who thought that being bi was just a stop on the way to figuring out that you were gay. And that was something that I thought because that was the way it went for several friends of mine in high school. I look back now and I realize I think they were hanging on to being bi because it was safer than saying they were gay. And they were able to sort of like keep holding on to appearing hetero in public in those relationships. But I believe that they were just struggling with actually coming out as gay, and I interpreted their situation to be the way that it tends to be with everybody, and that's just super duper not true. But I do think that television has a tendency to want people to fit into gay or hetero, and they're just like binary, and that's it. And it's just so not. So yeah, I really appreciate this whole thing with Daryl. I'm interested to see where it goes. Daryl hasn't gotten a lot to do in the past few episodes, and I think that he pairing up with a woman who like also appreciates the fact that she's my best friend, but I'm not her best friend, and this woman like completely knows what he means by that. I found that really funny. So okay, then let's talk about the dudes. There's this kid that has squirrel flu, which is amazing. We find out later that it's apparently given to them by moose or something, according to this, like, sing-along. I don't know. But the kid's in quarantine, breaks out, comes running out, and he coughs on Josh and Nathaniel and Greg. Greg is there to see Rebecca. He's not there for Paula. Josh and Nathaniel are there for Paula. And he coughs on them very purposefully, this little kid, this little rascal. And they all are forced to quarantine, which, of course, after living through 2020, has a certain... It just hits different nowadays, don't it? So they wind up together, and there is this, like, intense scene where they're trying to be cool. And Nathaniel not realizing, he says something to Greg about when we went out for drinks last year or something like that, tipping off Josh to the fact that Greg had been in town and never told him. And Josh is in his feelings over this a little bit. And Greg is like, dude, look, you were engaged to Rebecca, my ex-girlfriend? It felt weird, and I felt like distance was appropriate. And then it starts to really come to the fore that Josh is not... He straight up says, you know what? I don't care we're not friends anymore. Actually, that's great news because now I can tell you how I really feel. You don't deserve Rebecca. I've had my issues with Rebecca over the years, but I was always nice to her. You were a dick to her. You're not good enough for her, and you never will be. And Greg, thank you, Greg, stands up and is like, I'm sorry. guy who left her at the altar to become a priest without telling her or contacting her for weeks? Are you telling me that you were nice to her? Did that just come out of your mouth? And I was like, oh, thank you, sir. And they wind up getting into an actual fight. Josh kicks him in the chest. Because Greg says, honestly, I'm shocked she even talks to you after the way you treated her. And Josh kicks him in the chest, and it's like a sincere, like, I mean, that looked like it probably hurt like a motherfucker. And then we get the song about how fighting in real life doesn't look like fighting in the movies. And you guys, this might be one of the better songs of this whole season. There's nothing to do to talk about this song other than literally like word for word repeat it all. But real life fighting is awkward. This is so good. You guys all know that I'm always talking about how I really just want to get in a fight because I have a lot of pent up rage and I feel like it would probably be like a lot of fun to get that out a little bit. But I also am aware it probably wouldn't actually help get it. Like you think it's going to be a certain way that you'll be able to really vent your rage, but probably you won't. You probably are going to wind up in this weird arm lock with somebody. And we get to see all of these versions of fights with the two of them like dressed like Rambo and shit with fire in the background. And then we've got them in like futuristic outfits with these like swords that, you know, it's sort of like a Matrix look. I love Greg punches Josh in the face and then immediately is like, fuck, like really hurt his hand, and they have to take a bit of a break because they're both in a lot of pain. I just, guys, this was so, oh my God, it's so good. I just honestly love this so much. Josh, when they have this one part where he says, even if you know karate, and we see both of them like dressed up in karate outfits, and Josh has no shirt on. And guys, I just keep being like completely caught off guard by how insanely hot Josh is. I really can't handle it. I swear to God, he leaps up and does this like spinning kick, and his whole torso is rippling with muscle. And I'm just like, what the fuck? Even if you know karate, you both have to agree to use karate. It can't be one guy just using karate. And he grabs his leg and just holds it and then smacks Josh in the face. Oh my fucking God, that fucking killed me, you guys. Oh man. And then there's like the leaping with the like West Side Story-esque sort of costumes and background. There's no choreographer. Oh God, this is so good. Everybody, I loved it so much. And eventually things get to a point, oh my God. Greg picks up a scalpel and everything stops. Everybody's like, what the fuck? What are you doing? And then he's like, I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry. And he like puts it down again. And the fight eventually spills over into the room with all the kids, and Nathaniel has to come in there and fucking talk them down. And it eventually comes back to them deciding that they are going to try and be friends and get past this. Guys, the song Real Life Fighting is Awkward is super good. Also, I am super here for Nathaniel wanting to be the Three Musketeers, but constantly calling how he's D'Artagnan. Very, like, 8-year-old vibes. I was absolutely about it. I don't know if you guys did this too, like played games with friends when you were little where you pretended to be characters from things and everybody always wanted to be like the one badass or the one funny one or whatever. But I love that kept coming back up. And eventually Rebecca has that like heart to heart with Josh where she's talking about what she wants to do and she's giving him a hug. And you can see him sort of trying to evaluate how he feels about the hug while they're having it. And then there's a knock on the door and Greg is there. And she tells Greg the truth about what happened. I really appreciated his response, which is, Rebecca, come on. He's not like violently angry. It's just a disbelief. Like, I really thought we were past this. Holy shit. And because I thought that the show might not have her take a break from him. I thought they might have her be like, look, this is what happened, but you mean a lot to me and I'm really sorry and that's not going to happen again. But instead, they did the thing that I think is really smart, which is as soon as this happened, I went and got drunk and then tried to sleep with somebody else, like immediately, which points to the fact I am not ready because we had one fairly small fight and I can't be in a relationship with somebody that's supposed to trust me and then be able so easily to like completely break their trust like that, you know? I thought that his reaction of just, come on, with this like disgust and frustration, it felt very right to me. And she's like, I'm so sorry. And look, we started dating. I got really behind and that's on me, not you. But I think I just need to take a beat before I get into anything serious. And you still mean so much to me, but I'm not there. I'm sorry. And I was just all about it, you guys. I really appreciated this so much. I really did. And when she says friends, he says, okay, yeah, probably for the best. And by the way, reminder, she sees that he got in a fight, but he doesn't tell her what it was about or anything. And also reminder, Josh is watching this entire conversation and looking really smiley and happy with himself. And then we have Greg go to the bar. I don't know that he told Nathaniel to meet him there. I don't think so. I think Nathaniel just showed up. Oh yeah, here it is. Didn't see you at the noon class. Catalina and I missed you. And so I'm assuming this was just an accidental meet. But Greg says Rebecca and I are just friends again. It didn't work out. And Nathaniel, oh man, I'm sorry. And then Nathaniel turns away with a look on his face like, well. And that is the end of the episode. So I'm looking forward to seeing what happens. Okay, guys, I have to wrap up. I'm way over time. But thank you again to everybody for hanging out in the chat and feeding me names. Thank you to Jacqui for commissioning the episode. I hope you guys are enjoying the coverage. I'm super excited about coming up on the end of this series and seeing what it has in store and where it decides to leave off. I have no idea what to expect there. And I will be seeing you soon with a new episode. Let's see when the next one is here. June 8th. So it's coming up very shortly. Woohoo! All right, guys, I'll see you then. Until then, toodaloo, motherfuckers.
was an Unspoiled Network podcast.